So gold is skyrocketing, the crypto market's holding in pretty well. Stablecoins are surging. There's been a lot of commentary recently about the CFTC and the SEC saying that we want to allow on-chain and basically spot trading in the United States. Why is this happening now? Why is World Liberty Financial happening? It is because fundamentally the people in power right now want to get long cryptocurrency because they understand that the US political system is extremely fragile and that in 4 years it is not guaranteed by any stretch that the Trump family will have access to banking accounts. That is what the Trump family is saying as for their reason of the involvement in the cryptocurrency industry. It is because Donald Trump was shot at, likely by military intelligence operations that are now being gutted from the inside, right? There is shit going down in the US government, and that is the reason why the dollar is getting smashed. That is the reason why gold is surging. It is not because artificial intelligence systems need to use gold for some reason. It is because society itself is starting to falter, right? That is why Palantir is on the moon. People are envisioning a society where we need to implement draconian AI-driven control systems in order to keep social order. Asset prices are skyrocketing because we have unconstrained deficit spending that dwarfs any sort of earnings power of the companies in the system. The entire system, as we know it, has been a giant unfunded fiscal transfer from the government to the private sector for the last 20 years. And this is the blow off top of that, where it's like, oh, tariffs are going to pay the income taxes of the United States. Like, no, they're not. They are absolutely not going to do that. You are just going to soft default on your debt. And the people in power are telling us exactly what to do, which is get your money in gold, get your money in crypto, get your money out of this system, because this system is not guaranteed to last in 4 years. All of the immigration problems that are saddling Europe, all of the structural issues in the United States, these are not going to go away. They are not short-term problems. They are long-term structural problems where one person, one vote results in a society with massive wealth inequality, where basically 1% of the population controls more wealth than the bottom 50% of the population. The bottom 50% is going to eventually vote to take the money away from the top 1% of people. There are only 100,000 people in the artificial intelligence industry right now in the world that matter. That is a tiny number. 100,000 people could leave the San Francisco Bay Area and nobody would fucking notice. Maybe they'd notice a little bit, but not a lot. And that would be the entirety of the stock market. The entire stock market would be gone, right? So fundamentally, what is happening is that people who are rich are putting their money in bearer assets so that people who are poor cannot vote to take their shit away. That is the entire market right now. Now, the second order effects of that are very, very material and are poorly understood by the market, okay? So why are stablecoins happening? Why is Paolo Argiorno flying to Washington, D.C.? Why are Scott Bessent, every time that Scott Bessent speaks, it's always like, oh yeah, stablecoin. Why? Why do we need to promote Tether? The answer is because when you have a system which is fragile and can barely finance itself, the UK gilt market is getting smoked right now. It is at levels that have not happened since basically there was a debt crisis with Liz Truss, and that is happening to the global fixed income market as we speak. Governments are having difficulty financing their vast expenditures. And what do we know about governments? They are unwilling to stop spending. They will find a way to keep spending, right? So stablecoins are a realization of the US government that, you know what, there are no euro stablecoins, there are no sterling stablecoins, and by the way, the United States is the #1 home for dark money in the world. The US does not comply with anybody else's reporting requirements. If you are an offshore entity, the best place to keep your money is the United States, because the United States is totally unwilling to share information with any other country, and the United States will basically lean on your banking sector in order to get information from your banking sector into the United States. It's totally asymmetrical, so therefore, if you've even given up your citizenship in the United States is where you want to keep your money, right? So the United States is already kind of in this game, and with stablecoins, they're going all the way. They're saying, you know what? If people want to speculate, if we want to create this speculative mania, if we need to create a liquidity frenzy in order to basically finance our insane deficits, we're going to do it. And we don't care about the drugs. We don't care about the illicit financing. We don't care about any of that shit as long as the US dollar is on top in terms of BTC, USDT, in terms of the exchanges. If we're going to get on-chain stocks, they're going to be settled in US dollars. It's kind of ironic because, this is like the big XRP thesis, is that the XRP is going to be the settlement layer for all the currencies in the world. Well, guess what? The United States isn't going to let that happen because the United States wants the US dollar to be collateral and the pair for every single trade. Right? That keeps the value of the dollar up, and it forces people to denominate in dollars, even if they don't want to. We all probably have more USDT than we probably want to, just because we can't easily convert it into other shit on exchanges. Like, for a fact that you probably have more dollars than you want to, and that is deliberate. That is now a formal policy of the US government. They are creating the current stablecoin market so that they can basically take Tether, which has a completely crazy there's this idea of liability mismatch in finance, right? So when you have a liability mismatch, it means that you don't keep your assets in short-term liabilities, such that if there's a run on the bank, that you probably can't meet the run on the bank, right? Tether gave 15% of their equity to their auditor. Nobody does that. Normal people don't do that. You don't normally give equity to your auditor. That's some stuff that you don't do. I mean, maybe you should do it if you can get away with it. And it's even better if your auditor becomes the Secretary of Commerce, right? That's fantastic. And that's where Tether is right now. Tether is not going to get shut down. They probably have direct access to all kinds of stuff that we don't even know about because of their proximity to the government. And that probably has been true for a long time. So at the end of the day, Tether is basically if you go to the Bank of England's website and you kind of look at their CBDC papers, they kind of ask the question is how do we stop this balance sheet expansion from happening? And one of the answers is, we'll create a CBDC, which basically can absorb all this issuance. And it's kind of like money printing, except it's not formal balance sheet expansion. It's what if that's what stablecoins are? What if this massive supply growth in stablecoins is basically money printing? Basically there's some sort of implied backstop. This is, by the way, how COVID money printing worked. When the Fed stepped in and basically created these facilities with BlackRock to buy HYG and LQD, they were not very big facilities, but they were levered facilities. So basically, when the government is stepping in and providing leverage to backstop an asset, that at the end of the day, they don't have to backstop the asset because they can print money. So the amount of leverage that you can get on a balance sheet when it's government backstopped can be enormous. And historically, we have seen exactly what happens when you take this to the logical conclusion, which is the 2008 financial crisis. But that is sort of besides the point, right? Because at the end of the day, if the government, and by the way, Trump wants to bring it back, right? Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and he wants to bring the full thing back with equities and everything, right? As though 2008 never happened, right? It is because the government is intent on ensuring massive liquidity for massive debt issuance, which is completely opaque to the public and has no chance of ever being financed by tariffs or taxation or anything. It is going to be financed by quiet, probably illicit money printing, which completely changes the formula of how we do central banking. It's like banana republic type shit, okay? So I need you to get this through your head, that stable coins going up is the federal government saying that, hey guys, we're pretty much insolvent and we're going to pump the dollar one last time by going turbo crime, allowing as many stable coins on the market as possible. Who knows if they're fucking collateralized? I don't care. As long as the US dollar is the funding currency on that perp, I'm going to allow that perp. I'm going to get it in Europe. I'm going to allow payments in US dollars in Europe. And that's how we're going to drive demand for the US dollar, because why the hell would you own the US dollar unless you absolutely had to in order for payments? Unless it were the collateral for every single trade that you're doing. That is the only reason that you would hold the US dollar. So we're going to make sure that there is demand for dollars. That is what is happening right now in the crypto markets. And what does that mean pragmatically? If you want to understand the market in front of you, you need to understand this dynamic clearly. Bread and circuses are necessary for the functioning of the current financial markets. The current system is a Ponzi scheme, and Ponzi schemes cannot work unless there is massive liquidity. And the only way that there is massive liquidity is with massive trading volume, and the only way that there is massive trading volume is if there is massive financial speculation in every instrument possible. Let me repeat that. Ponzi schemes are only possible with massive liquidity. That is liquid Ponzi schemes, and the treasury market is the most liquid market in the world. So if you want to construct a system which is capable of absorbing trillions of dollars of issuance, it needs to be trading trillions of dollars, which is why you need trillions of dollars, specifically $3 trillion of stablecoins minted in the next 3 years, according to the Secretary of Treasury, Scott Bessent. So that is what is actually happening, okay? So once you understand that, then everything else in the market makes sense. You might not understand it otherwise, right? You're like, why are all these meme stocks trading like they are? Why are zero DTEs going rampant? Why isn't the government stepping in and regulating Robinhood, which actually transfers money from the poor to the rich, and it's called fucking Robinhood? Why is this being allowed? Why is this being encouraged? Why are the Trumps investing in prediction markets? Why are we financializing everything in our society? The reason why we are financializing everything in our society is the same reason that gold is at 3,500. It's because the system is insolvent, it is a Ponzi scheme, and the only way that the system can keep going is if we keep the liquidity running, okay? So that is what is happening in the world. That is what is happening in financial markets. So that is a thing. And what else do we know? We know that the only way out of this situation is AI. Well, there are two elements of this. Number one, artificial intelligence is fundamentally different from every other technology before it because artificial intelligence can evolve itself. That is what is this whole discussion of AGI is. The basic idea is that if AI systems get good enough at math, that you can replace AI researchers, AI can compound research in on of itself, and then all of a sudden you reach AI escape velocity where AI is basically doing its own training, and then next thing you know, AI is basically developing weapons, and you are creating weapons of mass destruction in data centers. That is fundamentally the AI bet, which is different from the internet bet, because the internet bet, maybe you could surveil people, but that was not really a thing until well after the 2001 terrorist attacks, and we started implementing mobile phones and satellite technology at scale. Keep in mind that basically the surveillance state as we know it didn't really start until 2003 or 2004, right? And that was well after the 9/11 reports. Palantir didn't even really get going until, the 2010s. So the internet was not fundamentally, it was originally developed by the military, but it was not, the internet bubble was not a military bubble. That is so different with artificial intelligence, right? The reason why China and the US are breakneck with AI is not because they want to make porn elves or whatever the fuck that we're doing with these generative AI and advertising loops. It is because at the end of the day, AI can generate bioweapons, right? If you remember Moderna, the vaccine, was basically pointed to by Sam Altman as like the first thing that we ever did with AI, right? It was a societal level push, which I think went terribly wrong, and I think a lot of people would agree with that. Nonetheless, it was AI driven, right? Nobody can disagree with that. Trump can't disagree with that. Trump was the one who did it. So we already have nation state level investment in artificial intelligence. This is not going to stop anytime soon. And why is that? Because once again, the demand for the dollar is entirely predicated on us basically developing AI faster than China. Because if we don't develop AI faster than China, then we are fucked, okay? Because basically then the demand for the US dollar, like who cares that it's on the BitMEX perp? Who cares that it's a settlement currency for all this different stuff? If the entire future of the economy is the artificial intelligence economy, then you don't need US dollars anymore if all the artificial intelligence is in China, okay? That is just basic common sense. So how does AI fit into all of this? So we know that AI is inevitable. The reason why AI is inevitable because everyone's investing in it. Anthropic has a $183 billion private valuation. There's unlimited money pouring into the AI space. Some of the numbers from the NVIDIA's most recent transcript, like going through them, they said, okay, last year, $10 billion of startup funding. This year, $20 billion of startup funding. Next year, we're looking at $200 billion potentially of AI startup funding. It's just this exponential curve because it's basically a government-funded scheme. Like, it can't go down, so of course it's going to go up. It's just yet another inevitability cycle funded by unlimited money printing, okay? So if you have inevitable artificial intelligence development, if you have inevitable everybody on their Chrome browser logged in to shit, trading stuff because the government wants you to trade things, because the government wants you to enforce the US dollar's reserve currency status, you are like, the trenches are a great name. The trenches are a fantastic name for what's happening because you are dying on the front lines of the trenches in order to basically convert Sol to USDT. That is your role. Your role is a dead soldier who is basically sitting there using their speculative attention to enforce the dollar's reserve currency status because you, at some basic level, by doing these trades and cashing out your tokens, are affirming the value of a dollar in a sort of ritual, right? You were sitting there when Gainsey is sitting there clicking, boom, sell the Gainsey token. He is killing himself for the flag. He's getting dollars, right? What's he converting? He's not converting. Everyone's so anti-Semitic. They're like, he's not getting shekels. He's getting dollars, right? Every time someone rugs a token, they are affirming the value of the dollar, right? Because they're saying, you know what? I sold that token, which is worthless, and I'm buying buying dollars. Bitcoin is sacrilegious because Bitcoin is saying the dollar is worthless, right? And that, I believe, is the thing that Bitcoin has everything else wrong except for that. The tech is stupid. Proof of work probably doesn't make sense, probably not necessary. Proof of stake coins work fine. They haven't been censored. Even XRP works fine, hasn't been censored. Tried to be censored. The government tried to stop XRP, hasn't. And yet we're paying billions of dollars to secure the Bitcoin network. Why? For transactions? Nah, not really. Just kind of because we think it's a good idea and it's more secure, but can you prove this is secure? No, not really. But what Bitcoin gets really, really correct is that everybody who owns Bitcoin believes that fiat currency at some level is worthless and you can't trust other fucking people, and that proof of work is a great way to show the world that you don't trust anybody and you can't trust anyone and you shouldn't trust anyone. And Bitcoin gets that marketing so correct, and no other cryptocurrency project can do it. Every other cryptocurrency project is like, we're about the tech, we're about the banks, we're about these smart contracts. Bitcoin Cash just seems like a scam. Only Bitcoin is capable of selling the scarcity narrative. And it could be because the founder's dead, right? That could be it. It could be, this is like a Jesus-like thing where you can't possibly recreate that sort of singular element. In some ways, maybe Michael Saylor's right. How many chairs are you sitting in right now, right? One share. There's one Bitcoin. There's one scarcity. There's only 21 million of them. It's a great meme. Sometimes I believe the meme, sometimes I don't. But the point is that Bitcoin is a marketing success. It has been the most successful product in BlackRock's history. It has more assets right now, I believe, than the long-term treasury ETF. So people would rather own Bitcoin at BlackRock, which is the entity that was in charge of quantitative easing in the United States, than own long-term US treasuries that are down 40% in the last 5 years. They would rather buy Bitcoin, which is skyrocketed. It's over $100,000 and there's all this like crap going on. They would rather own that than lend to the US government. So how does this all come together, right? We know that every asset is going to move onto a web browser. We know that it is going to be tradable imminently in the United States of America due to the SEC and CFTC policies. We know that artificial intelligence investment is nearly infinite and cannot stop due to national security concerns. We know that artificial intelligence tools are increasingly talented or increasingly capable of generative videos. We know that personalization is a core to any sort of advertising-based product, and that advertising companies such as Meta are key to all artificial intelligence development, and NVIDIA was originally a video game company. So therefore, it's very, very easy to predict how this is going to play out. The most valuable thing in the economy is artificial intelligence systems that can convince people to buy assets. Think about it, right? The only thing that matters in a Ponzi scheme is liquidity. And that what is the best at driving liquidity right now? It's streamers, like Thread Guy, right? Or these celebrities who come in and make videos, and Kanye and saying Trump, a reality TV star. He's the president of the United States, is a reality TV star. How many hints do you need to tell you that media is essential to generating liquidity? If you are running a Ponzi scheme, if you are defaulting on the US debt, who better to do it than someone generating massive liquidity and massive attention? Donald Trump, his entire life is basically practice for this one moment. He defaulted on all of his casinos to do one last huge big league default on the US Treasury, right? So that's where we are right now. We are at this moment in time when artificial intelligence is going to convince every single person in the United States to be part of the liquidity Ponzi, right? And nobody sees it yet, right? Everyone is so jaded because of all this AI agent stuff, all of this truth terminal, and there were all these incarnations of AI agents that basically didn't work. And we're all so used to this Kaido slop nonstop. There's these fucking replies on every single one of our tweets. They're not engaging yet. So we are still a little bit ahead of the curve in terms of the big adoption. Now, Hyperliquid and Binance, the tokens, are starting to price this in. The market is starting to get sly of this and say, wait a second, Interactive Brokers is now a member of the S&P 500, and overnight trading is up triple digits year on year. So the market is starting to get wise to it. Obviously, all the speculative stuff is run. But the reason why it's run is because we are now in a society where basically there's a loop. And you have to understand the loop. You have stable coins here. That's one part of the trinity. You have artificial intelligence and its capability to persuade people. That is another part of the trinity. And you have on-chain assets, which is another part of the trinity. That's why on-chain assets are so important. That's why, when you see things like Galaxy stock trading on Solana, it's so important. This cycle of AI being able to persuade people to do things and buy assets, and those assets being available because of unlimited stable coin supply, which is there to reinforce the dollar status in order to transact for specific assets, is the entire economy, because the economy is not real and the entire thing is a giant liquidity exit scam. So the only goal of the economy is to generate enough liquidity so that the elites can get their money out of the economy before the entire thing fucking collapses. So you need to understand that if you want to make it, because if you convert back into dollars, you're stuck. You're the sucker at the table. So how does it end? I don't know how it ends. I just know where we go from here, right? It's all a bet on speculative technology and the application specifically of speculative technology and individuals interacting with stablecoins and on-chain assets. That is the loop that you need to be in, right? If you want to make it, you need to be proximate to this loop. Perps, on-chain stocks, stablecoins, perps, on-chain stocks, stablecoins, sold by AI. Get it through your head. I'm trying to get it through my head. It's hard. It's really, really easy to forget. Because we're trained our entire lives. Our entire lives we're trained. We're just you got to go to work. You got to do the Excel model. You got to go to the bank. You got to get institutions to validate you. Man, the institutions, they're so fucked that they're doing an exit scam with the U.S. Federal Reserve. The institutions are not going to save you, Anon. I'm sorry. Maybe it's Bitcoin. Maybe it's gold. Maybe it's XRP. Maybe it's ETH. ETH is implementing privacy. Point is, you have to stack wealth in digital bearer assets, and you can't keep any of your money in dollars in the long run. When someone tells you that they want you to buy $3 trillion of stablecoins, they're going to rug you. That's what's going to happen if you keep your money in stables, right? That's what it's there for. It's to rug you. It's so that you can finance the deficit. You are the financing. So all that collateral that you're posting on all those exchanges is just deficit financing. It's going to zero. So yeah, it's exciting and it's not exciting. It's we know what needs to be built. Every hedge fund has it wrong. Every hedge fund is still in this world where they're like, you know what we need to do? We need to use AI and analyze the stock market better. Dude, AEO is up 26% after hours because Trump hard shilled it. It's a fucking meme stock. Trade the market in front of you. Everyone in the institution kind of knows that's like what is actually driving the market. It's just all this kind of liquidity driven, like politically sanctioned Ponzi scheme. But they're not allowed to trade on it. There's kind of this like idea that the market is holy. The market's not holy anymore, man. World Liberty Financial, give me a fucking break. It is not holy. There is nothing holy left. So yeah, it's degradation. It's taking profits in what remains of this empire that is caving. Could be bad, but maybe that's a limiting belief. Maybe it's good. Maybe the world that we're going into is more interesting. And maybe after we go through this process of using artificial intelligence to basically loop the entire economy into this giant speculative whirlwind, something on the other side will emerge which is more interesting than whatever the fuck got us to this place. Because whatever got us to this place is not very good. Let's be honest. When we look at those birth rate charts, or we look at our society, or we look at our world that we live in, is it really that fucking good? Is it better than the parents, our parents' lives? No, it's not. It's not better. So whatever we do, no matter how chaotic it is probably going to be better than what just happened, right? So I look forward to it. People say I'm a doomer. Maybe. I think we're doomed if you continue down the current path. But at least with artificial intelligence and the speculative whirlwind, there's a chance for something new. And that's what keeps me going. I don't know what keeps you going.